Lewis Hamilton just shattered a media record in Bahrain, and he did it in 56.8 seconds. Buckle up, because I'm about to break down the technical wizardry behind the car that let Hamilton settle in faster than a cat finding the warmest spot in the house. Oh, and by the way, hit that subscribe button only if you want to see Hamilton snatch that elusive 8th world title and cement himself as the greatest driver to ever touch an F1 steering wheel. If not, well, your loss. Now, if you thought Lewis was going to struggle adapting to his new red machine at Ferrari, you might want to throw that assumption straight into the bin. The 7-time champ has wasted zero time making himself at home in Maranello, leaving people scratching their heads at how ridiculously smooth this transition has been. Despite spending years basically fused to Mercedes' intricate systems, aerodynamic philosophy, and nerd-level technical approach, Hamilton hasn't wasted a damn second adjusting to his new ride. His first proper track session in the SF25 at Fiorano already gave us some early hints. This whole switch might be going a hell of a lot smoother than anyone expected. Did I mention you should subscribe if you want to see Hamilton grab his 8th title? Just saying. The moment he plopped into the cockpit, his feedback was nothing but positive. He immediately clocked how well balanced the car was, rock solid through high-speed corners, and just as steady in the slow stuff. That level of confidence right out of the gate is nuts, especially considering most people assumed he'd need months to tweak his driving style to match Ferrari's unique engineering philosophy. Historically, when drivers jump ship to a new team, even the tiniest details trip them up. Braking zones, suspension setup, throttle response, and how the damn aero load is distributed across the car. But Hamilton, nah, he's already squeezing out impressive performance metrics like he's been driving this thing for years. That's a very good sign for Ferrari, because it means their new beast is already playing nicely with his driving style. Now, switching teams in F1 is like trying to learn how to ride a bike backwards. It's not just about speed, it's about unlearning years of muscle memory. And for someone like Hamilton, who spent an eternity with Mercedes' ultra-specific engineering philosophy, adapting to a completely different chassis concept is no joke. Mercedes cars are built with a laser focus on high-speed braking stability, efficiency, and a throttle response smoother than your best pickup line. Ferrari, on the other hand, they tend to go for more aggressive mechanical grip, a different weight balance, and a front end that's twitchier than a caffeine addict at 8 a.m. On paper, that should have meant Hamilton needed ages to get comfortable. But no. Early signs say otherwise. He's not just adapting fast, he's already dropping technical feedback that could help shape Ferrari's future development. If this is just the beginning, then buckle up. This season is about to be insane. Subscribe only if you want to see Hamilton snatch his 8th world title and officially be crowned the greatest driver in history. Now, let's talk about the real spicy part. Ferrari's brand new beast, the SF25. According to internal simulations and early analysis, this machine isn't just fast, it's a whole damn rocket. Ferrari has somehow squeezed an extra 0.4 seconds per lap compared to last year's SF24. If those numbers hold up in pre-season testing at Bahrain, we're looking at a potential game-changer for the prancing horse. 4 years, Ferrari has stumbled out of the gates like a drunk trying to find his keys, always a step behind the titans of the grid, Red Bull, Mercedes, and occasionally McLaren. But this time, the data suggests they might actually have a car that can fight for wins from race 1. And the consequences? Oh boy, they're massive. A Ferrari that's competitive straight out of the box means Red Bull's monopoly over the sport might get a serious kick in the ass sooner than expected. Max Verstappen and Red Bull have been the undisputed benchmarks in recent years, but throw in a locked-in Hamilton driving a legitimately fast Ferrari, and suddenly, the pecking order gets turned upside down. Now, if Ferrari's newfound speed isn't just a one-trick pony, if it holds up across different types of tracks, from low downforce circuits to tire-chewing layouts and power-hungry straights, then buckle up, because we're not just talking about race wins. We're talking title contention for both the drivers' and constructors' championships. Subscribe only if you want to see Hamilton grab his 8th title and shut down every doubter once and for all. Now, let's add another ingredient to this chaos. Hamilton's absolutely bonkers work ethic. This dude doesn't just drive fast. He dissects a car like a scientist on steroids. Unlike a rookie or even a seasoned but average driver, Hamilton can pinpoint what's working and what's not at warp speed. His expertise in race strategy, tire management, and long-run consistency means Ferrari is about to experience a level of precision and fine-tuning they haven't seen in years. His arrival isn't just about morale. It's about fundamentally changing the way Ferrari operates during race weekends. And that brings us to another crucial factor: Ferrari's recent technical reshuffle. Under team principal Frederic Vasseur, the Scuderia has been busting their asses to streamline operations, make better race day calls, and, dear God, finally, stop screwing up pit stops. With Hamilton bringing in years of experience from a team that ran like a damn Swiss watch, Ferrari could finally iron out some of their biggest self-inflicted wounds. And if they manage to combine that with a car that's already looking rapid, oh man, we might just be witnessing the rebirth of a proper Ferrari title charge. So, are you in? Hit that subscribe button, because this season is about to get wild.
Hamilton's arrival at Ferrari is already messing with everyone's heads. In a good way.
Let's get one thing straight. The psychological impact of having Sir Lewis freaking Hamilton in Ferrari cannot be overstated. The guy walks into Maranello, and suddenly the whole place feels different. There's an energy shift, a fresh dose of confidence injected straight into the veins of the team. For years, Ferrari has operated under soul-crushing internal pressure, which, more often than not, has led to panic decisions, strategy nightmares, and pit stops that look like a clown show. But now, with Hamilton's serial winner mindset seeping into every corner of the Scuderia, there's a growing sense that Ferrari is finally developing a structured, composed, and not completely chaotic approach to racing. And that's huge. Put all these factors together, and what you get is the possibility of a season that could redefine both Hamilton's legacy and Ferrari's future. Pre-season testing will give us a clearer picture of what this red rocket can really do, but early signs suggest this partnership might start delivering way sooner than anyone thought. If Hamilton can extract peak performance from the SF25 straight out of the gate, Ferrari might just find itself knee-deep in a championship battle. A sight fans and pundits have been begging for over a decade. Now, don't get me wrong, the road ahead is long, and problems will pop up, because this is Ferrari we're talking about. But if the early indicators are anything to go by, we might be about to witness one of the most insane F1 seasons in recent memory. This isn't just another driver swapping teams. This is a damn legacy being rewritten. This is one of the most legendary teams in motorsport potentially reclaiming its throne. And this is the possibility of a real, multi-team championship fight. Something F1 fans haven't seen in ages. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see Hamilton bag his 8th world title and cement himself as the undisputed GOAT. Hamilton's first taste of the SF25. A moment that could change everything. The first time Hamilton put his hands on the wheel of the Ferrari SF25? That was a moment. Not just for him, but for the entire Scuderia. It wasn't just some casual shake-the-dust-off run. It was a big damn deal. A session packed with crucial data for the engineers and, just as importantly, Hamilton's first real shot at adjusting to a completely new car philosophy. One that's very different from the Mercedes machines he's been surgically attached to for years. Ferrari wasted zero time in pushing their 2025 Challenger to the limit. Fresh off the high-profile F175 launch event in London, where the team showed off their latest creation to the world, the SF25 was immediately hauled over to Fiorano, Ferrari's private testing circuit. In classic Ferrari fashion, they kicked off an exclusive shakedown before the official pre-season testing even began. The mission? Simple. Gather as much early intel on the car as humanly possible. Make sure all systems were running without any Ferrari-level disasters. Let the drivers get a first feel for the beast before the real grind of pre-season testing started. And guess who got first dibs? Charles Leclerc. The Ferrari golden boy, who's been through all the Scuderia's highs and lows, was the first to roll the SF25 onto the track. The moment he completed his installation lap, one thing was crystal clear. This car wasn't just an evolution of its predecessor, it had been seriously upgraded. Now, the only question left is, how fast can Hamilton really make it go? Leclerc kicks things off, and Ferrari finally feels like it's got its act together. Leclerc wasted no time and cranked out about 30 laps, focusing on the SF25's handling, particularly its corner stability and low-speed traction. Two areas where Ferrari had been tripping over itself in recent seasons. His first debrief with the engineers? Overwhelmingly positive. He immediately pointed out that the SF25 felt way more balanced and predictable than last year's twitchy nightmare, which had a nasty habit of turning braking zones into survival tests and chewing through tires like a toddler with a bag of candy. Those issues had been among Ferrari's biggest headaches in 2024, killing any chance of a sustained title challenge. After his run, Leclerc hopped out, shared his findings with the engineering team, and while the crew geared up for the next phase of the shakedown, history was about to be made. 12:47 p.m. A moment F1 fans will never forget. Right on cue, At exactly 12:47 p.m. local time, the moment arrived. Lewis Hamilton, draped in full Ferrari red for the first time in an official session, climbed into the SF25. And just like that, a new chapter in F1 history began. Applause rippled through the onlookers gathered at Fiorano, all eager to witness the first real interaction between the seven-time world champion and his new machine. But this wasn't just another test session. This was the symbolic start of something that could completely shake up the F1 landscape. Hamilton, known for his methodical approach to car development and fine-tuning setups, took his sweet time getting comfortable. His first laps? Controlled, cautious, and deliberate. Classic Lewis. He wasn't there to set lap records. He was there to feel the car, to learn its personality. Every little detail mattered: the braking zones, throttle sensitivity, overall responsiveness. Every single input was feeding into his massive mental database. And while his initial lap times were steady rather than spectacular, it was clear he was focused on gathering data rather than going full send. Then Hamilton started pushing. And that's when the magic happened. As he got a better read on the SF25's behavior, Hamilton started to ramp up the aggression, pushing harder, braking later, exploring its limits lap by lap. And then boom! That's when the real revelation of the day unfolded. The telemetry started telling a story, and it was a damn interesting one. Unlike last year's Ferrari, which was about as predictable as a soap opera plot twist, the SF25 was proving to be far more composed and stable. Gone was the erratic braking instability. Gone was the dreaded rear tire meltdown over long stints. Instead, Ferrari seemed to have built a car that actually worked with Hamilton's driving style. For a guy who had spent years mastering Mercedes' high-rake concept, it was wild to see how quickly he was adapting to Ferrari's completely different aerodynamic philosophy. His corner exits became progressively cleaner, his braking sharper, and his overall consistency just kept improving with every lap. Engineers monitoring the live data feeds were already seeing signs that Hamilton was extracting some seriously competitive performance on his very first day in Ferrari machinery. And if this is just the beginning, oh man, F1 is in for one hell of a season. Ferrari's garage was buzzing, and Hamilton was already in full engineer mode. The paddock was lit. People watching from the sidelines quickly realized that Hamilton wasn't just getting comfortable. He was already deep in the nitty-gritty with the Ferrari engineers. Weight distribution, suspension compliance, aerodynamic efficiency, you name it, he was breaking it down. His feedback was so ridiculously precise that even seasoned Ferrari staff were caught off guard. How the hell was he spotting areas for refinement this quickly? That's just classic Hamilton. His ability to dissect a car's behavior, down to the tiniest quirks, is exactly why he's a seven-time world champion. And from the very first session, he was already putting that brainpower on full display. Debrief time, where the magic happens. Once the shakedown wrapped up, it was time for the serious discussion. Both Leclerc and Hamilton sat down with the engineering team, exchanging notes like two nerds who just aced a group project. Leclerc's feedback? He was mostly raving about the improved balance and how the car wasn't eating its tires alive like last year's disaster. Hamilton, though? He went full scientist mode. He wasn't just talking about the car feeling better. He was breaking down why it felt better. Differential tweaks, aerodynamic balance shifts at high speeds, tiny nuances in chassis behavior under load. It was crystal clear. Ferrari had just gained an asset worth way more than just raw speed. They had a driver who could develop a car like nobody else on the grid. For Ferrari, this wasn't just a successful shakedown. This was a statement. The SF25 had already proven to be a serious step forward from last year's roller coaster of inconsistency. And now, with Hamilton fully plugged into the team's development process, the potential for further refinement and optimization looked seriously promising. Sure, this was only the beginning, but the first signs, they pointed to something huge. Ferrari might, just might, have a car that can actually fight for the title. Even as the sun set, Hamilton was still in work mode. As the sky over Fiorano turned shades of orange and red, Hamilton was still deep in conversation with Ferrari's tech staff. While most drivers would have packed up and called it a day, Lewis was already discussing setup tweaks, potential improvements, and fine-tuning ideas for the next phase of testing. This wasn't just a one-off glimpse at his work ethic. This was a preview of what's coming. A Ferrari squad, armed with one of the greatest drivers in history, might be on the verge of finally reclaiming its place at the top of F1. Hamilton's first take on the SF25, 3 key surprises. According to internal Ferrari sources, Hamilton's first impressions of the SF25 left a big impact, especially in 3 key areas where this car felt wildly different from the Mercedes machines he's been glued to for the past decade. His immediate reaction? Straight-up surprise. The way this car behaves on track was a total shift from what he was used to. The dynamics, the feedback, it was a whole new world. But Hamilton being Hamilton, he was already dissecting every strength and figuring out how to squeeze every last ounce of performance out of it. The first thing that really caught his attention? The SF25's braking stability. Right from his opening laps, it was clear that Ferrari had built something that handled braking zones way better than before. No more scary, unpredictable lockups. No more rear end stepping out like an overexcited puppy. Just a controlled, confidence-inspiring platform. And if that's just the first thing he noticed, you can bet there's a lot more to come. F1 might not be ready for what's about to happen next. Ferrari finally fixes its braking, and Hamilton is loving it. It didn't take long to realize that Ferrari has finally got its act together when it comes to braking stability. Unlike the recent crop of Mercedes cars, which had a nasty habit of getting jittery and unpredictable when slamming the anchors, the SF25 stays planted under hard braking. No drama, no unexpected snap, just a car that actually listens to what the driver wants it to do. That level of stability is a game changer. Why? Because when you're barreling into a corner at ridiculous speeds, you need to trust that the car isn't going to suddenly turn into a rodeo bull. This is especially crucial in overtaking scenarios. Late braking maneuvers are Hamilton's bread and butter, but in the Mercedes, that became an increasing pain in the ass thanks to its shaky behavior under deceleration. And in defense, a car that keeps its composure while braking means Hamilton can hold his racing line like a brick wall, fending off attacks without worrying about locking up or the rear end stepping out like an overexcited puppy. Meanwhile, Mercedes has spent years trying and failing to sort this out. Ferrari's power delivery. Smooth, controlled, and exactly what Hamilton needed. The second thing that made Hamilton raise an eyebrow? Ferrari's power delivery. Look, Mercedes has been packing a monstrously powerful hybrid engine for years. But one of its biggest flaws? Its temperamental energy deployment. Especially in low-speed corners and traction zones, the Merc had a tendency to be, well, let's just say, a bit of an asshole. The power delivery could be jerky, unpredictable, and hard to modulate, turning smooth exits into a constant battle to keep the rear in check. Ferrari, however, they've cracked the code. Right away, Hamilton noticed that the SF25's power delivery was smoother, more linear, and way more predictable. This isn't just about making the car feel nice. This has a massive impact on how it handles in race conditions. A power unit that doesn't try to throw you off every time you hit the throttle means better traction, tire management, and overall efficiency. And in an era where every drop of performance matters, that's a huge deal. But here's the kicker. It's not just about instant acceleration. How a car deploys its hybrid energy affects fuel consumption, battery regeneration, and race-long performance. Ferrari seems to have found a way to fine-tune their hybrid system so that power comes in naturally and progressively, minimizing wheel spin and making acceleration out of corners a hell of a lot smoother. This suggests that Ferrari's engineers have finally cracked the hybrid puzzle, squeezing out both efficiency and raw power in a way that's actually useful over a full race distance. Rear grip. Ferrari finally solves one of its biggest headaches. The third major revelation? The SF25's rear-end grip. For the past few years, Ferrari's Achilles heel has been high-speed stability. While Red Bull's aerodynamics allowed their cars to stick through fast corners, Ferrari was often left fighting a rear end that just didn't want to cooperate. Every time they tried to push, they found themselves tiptoeing around the limits, losing valuable time in corners where Max Verstappen was probably scrolling through his playlist. But this year, Ferrari's engineers went all in on fixing that problem. They refined the car's suspension geometry, made aero modifications, and basically did everything in their power to stop the SF25 from behaving like a stubborn shopping cart in high-speed sections. And Hamilton, he definitely felt the difference. From the very first runs, it was clear that this wasn't just a slightly improved Ferrari, it was a fundamentally different beast. And if this is what Ferrari is bringing to the fight this season, oh boy, Red Bull might actually have something to worry about. Hamilton's first take, damn, this feels good. The moment Hamilton started pushing the SF25 to its absolute limits, it became crystal clear. This thing is nothing like some of the Mercedes machines he's wrangled in recent years. Instead of dealing with an unpredictable, jittery mess every time he attacked high-speed sections, Ferrari's latest creation actually behaved itself. The car felt stable, composed, and, most importantly, fast as hell. But here's the real kicker. This isn't just about raw pace. That improved rear stability isn't just a confidence booster. It's a tire-saving weapon. A car that holds its aerodynamic load and traction steady at high speeds is way less likely to shred its rubber like a cheese grater, which is exactly what both Mercedes and Ferrari have struggled with in different ways over the past few years. Hamilton's early feedback? Ferrari has made serious strides in the areas that actually matter for race performance. Stable braking, refined power delivery, and an improved rear grip. This trio of strengths could turn the SF25 into an absolute menace on tracks where Ferrari used to get exposed. This car was practically built for Hamilton's driving style. Here's why this matters. Hamilton thrives in cars that let him brake late but under control, accelerate smoothly and predictably, and throw the car into high-speed corners without feeling like he's about to die. And that's exactly what Ferrari seems to have delivered. With a stable rear end and a well-balanced chassis, Hamilton can attack corners aggressively without fearing snap oversteer. This could be a massive game-changer for Ferrari's race strategy and car setup throughout the season. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how these characteristics hold up in different track conditions and real race scenarios. But if the early signs are anything to go by, this could be one of the smoothest team transitions of Hamilton's career. Honestly, everyone expected the move from Mercedes to Ferrari to be a rough adjustment. But if Ferrari keeps refining these strengths and actually builds on them, Hamilton might find himself not just comfortable, but in a car that gives him the firepower to fight for wins on a regular basis. Is this the car that can finally dethrone Red Bull? With all this hype, the real question is, can Ferrari actually mount a serious title challenge? That's the million-dollar debate right now among analysts, fans, and probably a few sleepless Red Bull engineers. On paper, these upgrades sound monumental. But in Formula One, you need more than just raw speed to win championships. You need a perfect mix of strategy that doesn't shoot itself in the foot. Ferrari, I'm looking at you. Tire management that doesn't leave you defenseless in the final laps. Driver-car synergy that allows consistency over an entire season. Operational execution, because let's be honest, Ferrari has had some truly horrific pit-stop disasters over the years. But here's where things get really interesting. According to inside sources, Leclerc clocked a best lap of 56.6 seconds at Fiorano, shockingly close to Michael Schumacher's all-time record of 55.9 seconds at the circuit. If that's a real indicator of the SF25's potential, Ferrari might just be cooking up something seriously dangerous. Is Ferrari finally ready to go to war? Hamilton's move to Ferrari was always going to be one of the biggest stories of the season. But after the Fiorano shakedown, this isn't just about one driver switching teams anymore. This is Ferrari making a statement. A statement that, maybe, just maybe, they've finally built a car that can go wheel to wheel with Red Bull. So, are we about to witness the greatest season in years? Buckle the hell up. This is gonna be wild. Fire racing. Ferrari's lap times are raising eyebrows. And here's why that's insane. You know what makes this whole thing even crazier? That blistering lap time wasn't even set in ideal conditions. The SF25 wasn't running on proper Pirelli race compounds, but rather a set of non-official tires that don't offer the same grip levels Ferrari will have on an actual Grand Prix weekend. And to make things even more ridiculous, the track temperature was significantly lower than what the car will experience in a real race scenario. For those who don't speak F1 geek, cold track temperatures usually mean crap tire performance, making it harder to generate heat and grip. Yet somehow, Leclerc still managed to clock a lap that turned heads across the paddock. Now, if Ferrari can replicate or even improve on this performance in the much more representative conditions of pre-season testing in Bahrain, then we're not just talking about a quick car, we're talking about a genuine frontrunner. Ferrari's alleged performance gains are starting to sound like a problem. For Red Bull, there's been a lot of paddock gossip about Ferrari potentially gaining 0.4 seconds per lap compared to their 2024 pace. Normally, you'd take that with a grain of salt, but at this point, it's getting real hard to dismiss. And in Formula One, a 0.4 per lap gain isn't just good, it's a goddamn game changer. For context, even a 1 or 2 tenths improvement can shake up the competitive order, so if Ferrari's numbers hold up, we could see them going toe-to-toe with Red Bull and McLaren instead of just performing well on tracks that suit their car. But here's the thing, Being quick in testing is one thing. Being consistently fast across an entire season, on different circuits, with varying fuel loads, tire compounds, and race strategies? That's a whole different beast. So yeah, Ferrari's SF25 looks promising, but if they want to actually fight for a title, their internal driver politics might be just as important as their car's performance. Forget just beating Red Bull. Ferrari's biggest battle might be itself. Hamilton's arrival at Ferrari isn't just a big deal for the Scuderia, it's about to shake up the entire F1 grid. And let's be real, the Hamilton versus Leclerc dynamic is already shaping up to be one of the spiciest narratives of the season. On one hand, Leclerc is Ferrari's golden boy, the homegrown talent who's been with the team since 2019, knows how the whole machine works, and has been deeply involved in shaping their car development. On the other hand, Hamilton is a 7-time world champion who has spent over a decade dominating the front of the grid. His ability to deliver under pressure and fight tooth and nail in wheel-to-wheel combat is the stuff of legend. So, who's going to be the real team leader? Ferrari boss Frederic Vasseur has already made it clear. Both drivers start the season on equal footing. No designated number one. But let's be honest, F1 history tells us that's never how it actually plays out. Once the title fight starts heating up, every team naturally gravitates toward a leader. And if Ferrari truly has a car capable of going all in for a championship, then the internal power struggle between Hamilton and Leclerc could be just as brutal as their battle with Red Bull on track. F1 just became a whole lot more interesting. If Ferrari really has built a legitimate title contender, we're looking at one of the wildest seasons in recent memory. Red Bull is still the team to beat. But if Ferrari, armed with a reborn Hamilton and a hungry Leclerc, can consistently challenge them? Oh man! We might finally get a proper multi-team championship battle. And that's the kind of chaos F1 fans live for. Buckle up. This is going to be one hell of a season. Fire racing. Ferrari's biggest opponent might be Ferrari itself. Can Ferrari strategists pull off the impossible, keeping both drivers happy? Or are we about to witness a full-blown civil war when the team inevitably starts favoring one over the other? And let's be real. How will Hamilton react if he starts getting the feeling that Ferrari is secretly backing Leclerc, the guy with a long-term future at Maranello? On the flip side, how is Leclerc going to cope with the immense pressure of sharing a garage with one of the most decorated drivers in F1 history? He knows damn well that one mistake could be all it takes for Ferrari to lean towards Hamilton. The psychological aspect of this rivalry cannot be ignored. Leclerc has spent the past few years as Ferrari's undisputed leader, but all of that changed the second Hamilton walked through the door. For the first time since Sebastian Vettel left, Leclerc has a teammate who's a proven world champion and a certified title contender. This is completely new territory for him. Carlos Sainz was a tough competitor, sure, but let's be honest, he was never a real threat to Leclerc when it came to Ferrari's championship ambitions. With Hamilton sitting in the other Ferrari, Leclerc will have to level the hell up, not just in raw pace, but also in racecraft, political maneuvering, and playing the long game within the team. Hamilton's arrival shakes the entire F1 grid. And it's not just Ferrari that's feeling the shockwaves. Hamilton's move to Maranello has completely disrupted the landscape of F1, with Red Bull, Mercedes, and McLaren keeping an extremely close eye on how this dynamic plays out. Because here's the thing, if Ferrari is actually as competitive as these early signs suggest, a full-scale war between Hamilton and Leclerc could be exactly what their rivals need. A Ferrari split down the middle is a weaker Ferrari. If tensions start bubbling over, expect costly race day mistakes, strategic blunders, and wasted opportunities. And you know Red Bull and Verstappen will be first in line to capitalize on every bit of chaos. Same with McLaren. They've been steadily gaining ground, and in 2025, they're expected to be legitimate title contenders. If Ferrari starts tripping over itself internally, McLaren could easily slide right into the fight. Ferrari can't afford to be fast and stupid. Here's the brutal truth. Raw speed isn't enough to win championships. Ferrari has had fast cars before, but shit strategy, poor tire management, and reliability disasters have repeatedly sabotaged their own drivers. Time and time again, they've thrown away pole positions and race-winning pace with catastrophic decisions. So even if the SF25 is fast enough to challenge Red Bull, the Scuderia needs to prove that they can actually run a race weekend without stepping on their own damn feet. Because let's face it, even a slightly faster car won't mean jack shit if they're still screwing up pit stops, botching race strategy, and failing to adapt when conditions change. This season isn't just about Hamilton versus Leclerc. It's about whether Ferrari can finally stop being its own worst enemy.
And if they can't?
Then Red Bull, Verstappen, and McLaren will be more than happy to pick up the pieces. F1 just got a whole lot more interesting. Hamilton's Ferrari era isn't just a storyline, it's a potential turning point for the entire sport. Will Ferrari finally put together a proper championship campaign? Will Hamilton and Leclerc be a dream team or a ticking time bomb? And most importantly, can Ferrari get its damn act together before it's too late? One thing's for sure, this season is about to be absolute chaos. Ferrari can't afford to screw this up. Every mistake counts in a title fight. In a championship battle, even the tiniest screw-up can have massive consequences. And if Ferrari is seriously aiming for the big prize, they need to prove they've actually learned from their past disasters. One of the biggest challenges they face? Keeping the SF25 competitive all season long.
Red Bull has mastered in-season development.
Adrian Newey and his crew are basically mad scientists, fine-tuning and optimizing their car relentlessly throughout the year. That's why they keep winning. Ferrari cannot afford to start strong and then fall flat on their ass when the development war kicks in. If the SF25 is fast out of the gate in Bahrain, Ferrari's real test will be keeping the updates rolling without compromising reliability. Because having a quick car in March means absolutely jack shit if it turns into a glorified tractor by September. A strong start is only half the battle. Staying ahead takes constant evolution and ruthless adaptability. Leclerc versus Hamilton. The battle for Ferrari's #1 status. Now, here's where things get spicy. If Leclerc squeezes every drop of performance out of the SF25 from race 1, Ferrari might naturally gravitate toward backing him. It makes sense. He's their longest-serving driver, he's invested years into shaping the team's philosophy, and he knows the inner workings of Ferrari better than anyone. But what if Hamilton comes in and flips the script? If, despite joining Ferrari late, Hamilton adapts at lightning speed, outperforms Leclerc, and starts racking up better results, Ferrari might have no choice but to shift their focus to the 7-time world champion. And let's be honest, if Ferrari sees a real shot at their first title since 2007, they'll throw everything behind the driver most likely to get it done. This could be Hamilton's most legitimate title shot since his fights with Red Bull in 2010 and 2012. Hamilton's biggest test. Can he become one with Ferrari? For Hamilton, 2025 isn't just about driving fast, it's about fitting into Ferrari's entire ecosystem. Switching teams after more than a decade at Mercedes isn't just about learning a new car, it's about adjusting to a completely different philosophy, a new culture, and a fresh set of engineers who have their own way of doing things. Ferrari's cars have always been wildly different from Mercedes' machines. From aero philosophy to chassis balance to how they deploy hybrid power, everything operates on a different wavelength. And while Hamilton's adaptability has been one of his biggest weapons throughout his career, the question remains: can he adjust fast enough to launch a serious title challenge from race 1? Or will Leclerc's familiarity with Ferrari systems and race operations give him an early edge that Hamilton will have to fight like hell to overturn? This isn't just about Hamilton's 8th title. It's about his legacy. Beyond Ferrari's internal war, there's a bigger picture: Hamilton's long-term mission. Everyone assumes he's only here for one thing: winning an unprecedented 8th championship and shattering Michael Schumacher's long-standing record. But Hamilton, he's already made it very clear. His goal at Ferrari goes beyond just personal milestones. What does that mean for Ferrari? For F1? For his career beyond racing? We're about to find out. And trust me, this season is going to be absolute chaos. Hamilton isn't just here for an 8th title. He wants to rebuild Ferrari's empire. If there's one thing Hamilton has hammered home over and over, it's this: he's not just here to drive fast. He's here to bring Ferrari back to the top. Winning a championship in Ferrari Red isn't just another notch on the belt. It's an immortal legacy move. A title with Ferrari carries a level of prestige that no other team can match. It puts a driver in the same breath as Schumacher, Lauda, Fangio, and Ascari. Legends whose names are etched into motorsport history. And sure, Hamilton might downplay his pursuit of that elusive 8th championship, but let's not kid ourselves. He knows exactly what's at stake here. If Ferrari gives him a car that can fight for the title, you can bet your ass he'll be going all in to make history. Hamilton is playing the long game, and he's not leaving anytime soon. One thing is crystal clear: Hamilton's hunger hasn't faded one damn bit. His recent comments make it pretty obvious. Retirement isn't even on his radar yet. even if he does clinch another title. Instead, he's already hinting at something bigger, leading Ferrari into a new golden era. This isn't just a one-season, all-or-nothing gamble. Hamilton sees this as a long-term mission, a multi-year project to drag Ferrari back to the top and keep them there. If the SF25 is actually competitive, don't be surprised if Hamilton sticks around for years, spearheading Ferrari's return to dominance. Ferrari's fate hinges on one thing: the SF25 needs to deliver. Of course, all of this is just talk until the SF25 actually hits the track in Bahrain. Sure, Ferrari's pre-season simulations and wind tunnel numbers make it look like they've unlocked a new level of performance. But that's all theoretical bullshit until we see how the car stacks up against Red Bull, McLaren, and even Mercedes in real race conditions. If Ferrari's paper gains actually hold up on the asphalt, then yeah, we might be looking at their best season in over a decade. But if the car starts chewing through its tires, suffering reliability issues, or losing performance when it matters most, then it's the same old Ferrari story. So close, yet so far. Even if the car is fast, there's another problem: the Hamilton versus Leclerc dilemma. Even if Ferrari nails the car, there's still a massive question mark. How the hell are they going to handle their two superstar drivers? Because let's be honest, Ferrari isn't just fighting Red Bull this year. They might be fighting themselves. Hamilton and Leclerc both want to be the top dog. Ferrari has sworn they'll give them equal footing at the start of the season, but we all know how this goes. The second one of them starts outperforming the other, Ferrari will have no choice but to pick a side. And when that moment comes, shit is gonna get real. Buckle up. This season is about to be absolute chaos. The stage is set. Hamilton wants to rewrite history. Leclerc wants to prove Ferrari is his team. Ferrari needs to stop tripping over itself. And Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes are waiting to capitalize on any sign of weakness. One thing's for sure: Formula One hasn't been this damn exciting in years. Ferrari's biggest gamble: let them fight or pick a side. Will Ferrari let Hamilton and Leclerc battle it out on track until one driver emerges as the clear title contender? Or will they pull the trigger early and back a single driver from the start? Historically, Ferrari has never handled internal power struggles particularly well. We've seen it before. Fernando Alonso versus Felipe Massa, Sebastian Vettel versus Charles Leclerc, all-out civil wars that ultimately tanked their championship ambitions. If Ferrari screws up their driver management, they're basically handing Red Bull and Max Verstappen a golden opportunity to capitalize on the chaos. And let's not forget, Hamilton has spent his entire Mercedes career as the undisputed king of the garage. The entire structure of the team was built to maximize his performance. But Ferrari, that's Leclerc's kingdom. He's been embedded in the team for years, shaping the car's development and earning serious backing from within the organization. If Hamilton wants to take over as Ferrari's main man, he's going to have to navigate a team culture that's been molded around Leclerc's preferences. So, what's it gonna be? Will Ferrari fully shift their focus to Hamilton if he proves to be the faster driver? Or will they bend over backward to keep things equal and risk shooting themselves in the foot? One thing is for sure: this isn't just a battle for a championship, it's a battle for Ferrari's soul. Ferrari's internal war is just one piece of the chaos that's coming. While Ferrari is trying to sort out its own mess, the rest of the grid isn't slowing down. Red Bull, powered by the relentless Max Verstappen, isn't about to roll over and let Ferrari take their throne. And with Adrian Newey's RB21 likely being another absolute monster, expect them to be just as dominant as ever. McLaren is coming in hot. Their insane second-half resurgence in 2024 suggests that they could enter 2025 as genuine title contenders. If their momentum keeps building, they might not just challenge Ferrari, they might outrun them entirely. Mercedes is desperate for a comeback. Losing Hamilton was a massive blow, but they'll be hell-bent on proving they're still a powerhouse. With George Russell leading the charge and potentially a young rising star alongside him, they'll be looking to reclaim their spot at the top. So yeah, Ferrari's biggest fight might not just be against themselves. Will the SF25 be the savior, or just another false dawn? At the end of the day, none of this drama matters if Ferrari's car isn't up to the task. This season won't just be about raw speed, it's about how Ferrari handles the pressure, the rivalries, and the never-ending war of development. So many massive questions hang in the air. Can Hamilton come in and immediately establish himself as Ferrari's leader, or will Leclerc's deep-rooted presence in the team give him an edge? Will Ferrari's strategists let them fight, or will internal politics derail everything? And most importantly, will the SF25 actually be the car that finally takes Ferrari back to championship glory, or will it crumble under the pressure of Red Bull's unstoppable machine? As we inch closer to the first race of the season, one thing is undeniable. The stakes have never been higher for Ferrari. The entire world of Formula One is watching.
And history, it's waiting to be written.